Well, hello and welcome to Concentric Circles, the show about being a 21st century creative. My name is Jim Tremontina. I am joined today by John O'Deener, Vinny Fiorello, and Obi Fernandez. How you doing, guys?
Chillin'.
Good.
Chilling like a villain. How's your quar going? How's the quarantine? You guys all doing okay with the COVID and all that?
Dude, Florida's turning into the extra shit show that it always could be. Reaching, dude, it's reaching its full potential of shit show. So
very good. I would expect nothing less from my home state. I live in Ohio now, but my memories of Florida, they're
hey, time out. No offense to Ohioans, right? But Ohio's quite the shit show too, my friend.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. It is a very strange place. Man, you want to talk about culture shock. Moving from Central Florida to Southwest Ohio was definitely culture shock for me, man.
To me, it seems like it's one consistent mullet, like places like.
You just followed up 75?
Yeah. It's just 75 length.
The mullet core.
You go up the back of the mullet through the 2 cans of beer, and then you're there. It's awesome.
There's like a beer fridge at the back of the gas station. It's pretty great. But that's like, our joke was always like, there's like the truck stop states where it's like Indiana. Like, I don't know. I never did anything in my life in Indiana until my parents moved to Valparaiso for a second. And even then I was like, this is where I like stopped to take a piss on the way to Chicago. Like that's literally all this
Yeah, Indiana's nothing but corn. I once recorded in Indiana once, and it was in Connorsville, Indiana, and it was quite the experience. It is. I don't know if you've ever read the books. John Dies at the End, but it's about a nondescript Midwestern town where basically it's a portal to hell, and I think Connorsville, Indiana, might be that place.
Oh God.
I remember a lot of stops in Gary, Indiana,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, Jackson 5. And then you're just like...
Every time we go by there, we're like, Michael Jackson's from here. It also smells like shit. Also, it's terrifying.
It's so scary.
Illogical.
It doesn't matter like what time of year it was. Like, like it could be like middle of summer, blazing hot sun everywhere else, but you're in Gary, Indiana, and it's just like overcast. And like, it feels like, stuff's about to shoot out of the sky into your face. It's scary. It's always a scary place.
Let me roll back. My wife's prom grew up in Ohio, right? So it's not that I'm like thinking, going like, people are going to think I'm talking shit on Ohio, like because
Ohio's great.
My wife grew up in Ohio, so I feel that just by a certain bond, right, that I can talk shit on it. Like I feel good about that.
Yeah.
I mean, also you live in Florida currently.
That's so weird. That I don't know if it started, I think, with the Trail of Tears, but we won't go there. But there's like some kind of weird. I guess it's the mullet. It's the mullet canal. It's like, just like we said. So
I mean, every state just kind of has their thing. I mean, I'm from New Jersey, right? I have a super unhealthy like passion for the state of New Jersey, and I get made fun of all the time for it. But
you have a Jersey tattoo?
What's that?
You have a Jersey tattoo?
I do have a Jersey tattoo. Of course I do. Come on.
Yeah, everyone from Jersey has a Jersey.
I mean,
I think you're born to like
profile of Bon Jovi's hair from the 80s.
I actually have Bon Jovi's face on my chest, like right here. I'll show it one time. But yeah, exactly.
Slippery when wet. Like.
It's Bon Jovi's here and Snooki's like right here. It's really it's perfect. But every state has it. Like I remember going to like Florida, and we had like van troubles, I think like around Cocoa Beach, and we just randomly like met these dudes, and they were like mechanics, and our first van was awful. But anyway, like we had to get to the gig. Like we were playing like a later night gig that night at like some whatever. We were playing reggae music, right? So we could show up late. Right. So like I just remember these two like good old boys who were like, hey, we got to get these dudes to the gig. And like tools just started flying out of everywhere. And there was just like bottles of booze and tools and like sparks flying. And before I knew it, like the dude just like gave me a little smack on the face. You're good to go, boy. You know what I mean? And we drove in your face. It was awesome. It was so great.
That's a great start of a porn, by the way.
I don't know. Yeah. Well,
hey,
now that I told that story, I feel icky.
Scene 2, right after the slap on the face. That's what I want to know about.
You just hear slap bass.
You're good to go. You're good to go. We got to get these boys. They just kept saying that to each other the whole time. We got to get these boys to the gig. We're just
what? I got a gig. We got to get them there.
It's the Blues Brothers.
It's amazing.
You know
Cocoa
what?
Beach, man. Cocoa Beach.
This past week and a half, right, has been awesome. And we finally started to roll out some more details about the inevitables, right? That project that we were talking about the last 2 episodes. And I can tell you, Jono right there is writing the script for the comic book, which is awesome. And it really is awesome. Nice. Obi is started it with myself and just kind of going back and forth via text. And it's kind of branched out to a very awesome animal. And we've been talking about it and just kind of teasing a little song here and characters that are coming with it. And I can tell you that there's very cool things that are ahead for it. But, right? I don't want to make it all about that. But The Inevitables, it's been an exciting week of just bringing out little bits and pieces. And here we are, man. We could talk about all those things. But, to a viewer, it makes sense now why we're all here together. And we're working on this project in unison. And that's The Inevitables. So there it is.
Yeah, there it is.
Say the name.
So stoked. I know we can say it. It's been, and we should probably wait till our guest comes on too, so we can kind of talk about it even further. Because it really, our guest today, Alex Stern, when he comes on in a bit, it was really clear. When like someone's like, oh, we got to do this thing, and like, what's it going to take to get it done? And you start thinking like, he was the first dude. I was like, you know what, man, if this thing's going to happen, we got to have this guy on board. So it's been cool on that front.
I think that's a great segue, man. Why don't we just do it? And I'll dip on out and intro Alex, and you guys can really dig into it real deep. What do you say?
Sounds good, man.
All right. So Guitar Player Magazine doesn't currently have the world's best ska guitarist as one of its rankings. But to be fair, if it did, Alex Stern would effortlessly crack the top 200. He's brought his a little ahead of the beat, but he knows the tunes, and he shows up on time approach to Big D and the Kids Table, Westbound Train, and Void Union, Boston Legends, all of them, and has developed a novel approach to songwriting with the Pomps, one of the few pairings of ska and new wave that doesn't cheapen both. He is currently lending his sensibilities to The Inevitables, a multimedia, multi-state super collaboration with co-compositions indulging his love for popular songs and dystopia in equal measure. Outside of his creative life, he is the dad to Theodore and a thoroughly average but committed bike rider. Alex, welcome to the Inner Circle.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Great to be here. This is my first public appearance of the entire quarantine. So I dressed for it, but it feels good to be out of the house and interacting with non-toddlers.
Are you biking? Has your biking schedule kind of slowed down? Or are you still trying to hit it every day?
Since daycare reopened, it is revved up.
Gotcha.
But I still would always try to fit in one every day. I can't write songs without it. So it's kind of everything works together.
That's awesome. How many miles a day do you try to do?
Obi, we don't talk miles. We're talking all right? No, in the 20 range, but lately I've been trying to find some hills and just really torture myself.
That's sick. That's good.
That's how you get this above average dad bod.
That's good. I try to do at least like 20 donuts a day, and that's how I get my.
That's terrible, man.
I know.
No, but they're like good donuts.
Oh, okay. Oh, they're Jersey donuts.
They're so good.
They're not Dunkies, which is
no Dunkies. I stay away from Dunkies. That's like when you're desperate. You know what I mean? Shout out Broad Street Doco. I'm just saying.
Product placement.
So, yeah. Vinny, what are we talking about today, my man?
You know what? It's an extension of what Alex just said, right? So Alex is a newish dad, right? And while it's just not about parenting and trying to write music and all that, but it's more so about the balance of everything, of being a creative, right? And to be honest with you, it's a wild combination that works for you and the people and the projects and the passions that you have and that you do, right? You have to sit there and go, at one point in time, go, well, here's this, and this is what I love to do, but this is what I have to do, right? And that's what we're going to talk tonight, man. It's going to be the balance of being a creative and just a modern world, right? But here's the thing, that you have balancing work life and home life and creativity versus productivity. And you walk that tightrope, right, of the spending the time with the people that you love and doing the things that you love to do. And then it's on the other side of that tightrope, it's what's important and that sort of productivity to get things done and just get down your to-do list. So tonight is balance, man, and how to get there and what to do when you don't get there.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I think balance is kind of like is one of the misunderstood dynamics. I think when it comes to any part of life, I think people like, they're on this never-ending quest for it. So it's like you need exercise and you need all these things, and it really does come down to like all these disciplines, and it comes down to this like maturity, right? Because I think the first part of balance is, well, how organized are you? How organized do you become, right? And if you're not organized, like some of us are, you have to get super creative, right? Like with your time. And it's also, can you say no to people, right? What are you letting into your life and what are you not going to let into your life? So I guess we can start there. Like I think it's a discipline thing. It really is. It really comes down to it. I think balance might almost be, maybe by the end of this podcast, I might think that it's real and exists and we can get to it. It's, but I also might think that it's a made up destination that we're never, ever going to get to. What do you think, Jono?
So I feel like there is no destination with balance, especially as a creative, because if our goal was like, I want to write this one hit song and then I live on the beach forever, like my nightmare is doing nothing. But as a creative, my favorite thing in the world is getting to keep making stuff and seeing it happen and go for it, But part of balance is, let's use the scale metaphor, right? So like you have, this is creatively fulfilling, this pays me. So that already starts like shifting that. Then you have, this is creatively fulfilling and maybe pays me, but I also have a family and I have long-term things and I can't be, because I individually, like I'm in freelance world where I've been writing, I've been doing all this other stuff, but it's always like a project by project basis. So when we get to a certain point, you have to figure out, do I sacrifice something to make a career for other people and myself? And is that what I really want or not, And so like Alex, for example, you're a new dad. Like actually everyone else on here other than me has kids. I have cats. So, like our understanding of balance is very different from each other, but we all still like are in that same field. You know what I mean? So like Alex, as far as like doing music and all that kind of stuff, how does it work for you when it comes to balance?
Well, the first thing is I really try to only take things that I want to do. And I think I've also had a lot of luck of only really being offered things that I want to do. By and large, there's a couple things. There's a couple, like somebody asked me to be in a video a couple of months ago, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to just be in a video. It just because, but it wouldn't have taken any time, so you can't really add it to the balance discussion. So obviously, project selection, I think is like that's sort of the primary. That's your sort of prevent defense for the whole thing. Is you have to pick the right projects, and then you just make sure that the people that you choose to work with people who have realistic deadlines, realistic goals. If the project itself is well organized and well managed, you're not going to have to balance as many other aspects of your life. But I don't know that I always practice what I preach though, because I like music so much that I try to take on everything, and so the next level behind that is figuring out what you need to stay sane. And so luckily over the past few years, I think I've gotten a lot more stamina for that through like exercise and not drinking and not consuming cable news. You know, those are like 3 things you can do that are going to make your threshold for dealing with people who might be unrealistic, might be difficult, or might just not have a clue and be perfectly nice. So that gets me a long way. I don't think I haven't had to like opt out of a project or tell somebody that their expectations are too high in quite a long time.
You know what? The one thing that is amazing that as I've gotten to know you, right, is that you're an insane bike rider. And it's not that you're doing like, oh, I'm just cruising around for relaxation. It's real deal stuff, like 10, 20 miles. Like, it's, for me, that doesn't bike ride, right, and very minimally exercises, right? I was blown away when you were like, oh, yeah, I went 28 miles out to from Boston to Northampton, Pearl Street at the club, right?
That was 103 miles. But I did it.
So for me, that blows me away. But that also tells me about you, right? That you're using that as not only to feel better, but as an extension of kind of the work life, the work stress, and family life, whatever. Am I close on that, or is it?
Yeah. Well, and what's important about that is, you know, like any form of exercise, the first like, I don't know, quarter of it, third of it, no matter how long it's, whether it's 10 miles or 100 miles, 2 miles, 4 miles, the first quarter of it is the time where you are just getting your anxiety out. And then halfway through it or so is when you start having productive thoughts. Mm-hmm. You know, you're done being mad at whatever stupid thing you were mad at, or trying to right some wrong that was done to you, and you start thinking of song ideas, or like maybe not a song idea, maybe just like, fuck, I really need to clean my desk, and that will help you work on it. You know, it can be anything like that, but that's part of it. And you know, a long walk will do that too. If you know, anything that gets you out of your workspace, out of your home space, and gets you re-energized towards a goal. And so in that sense, that's been huge. And also, like, it's the first time music used to be sort of my semi-profession and my hobby, and now it leans more towards semi-profession and less of a hobby. So it was important to replace that with something too.
Yeah.
I think the project that we're on, so we can talk about it, the Inevitables, right? I think what we're kind of saying now, like, that's a perfect picture, I think, of a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. So when Vinny first approached me and shared the idea, and instantly I was like, man, this is just so cool. And then, so it's like, oh, there's this story and there's these characters. And so this is what's happening in the world, you know? And like, so when I think about even just where the initial story of Inevitables, where it started to where we've landed, and then on top of it, we're going to do this, we're going to put music behind it because that's what we love, right? We're going to write this like kind of soundtrack. And as soon as like Vinny mentioned it, like, Alex, you were like the first dude, you know, I knew we had to call, because I knew how you're a prolific songwriter. I knew that you had the discipline. That was the thing. I knew that we were going to start working on these projects. And so when we started to think about it, this is going to sound crazy, it was pre-Christmas when we first started talking about Inevitables, right? I think it was like something like maybe even like pre-Thanksgiving, maybe?
It was November 19th.
There it is, November 19th. There it is. There's the man. By Christmas time, we were 7 songs or 8 songs into the Inevitable soundtrack. Like, that's crazy. Like,
well, for me, because I got the text on Christmas, like Christmas night, and Vinny was like, "Hey man, you got a second to talk?" And I was like, "What is this?" I was curious, but I had no idea that it was that far along until that point. You know what I mean? Like, which is so rad.
But I remember like the pace that we were trying to keep. Like, I remember Alex and I would like talk like kind of like every day, and we'd be like, oh, there's, you know, Vinny would like shoot over lyrics, and we're like, oh, what about this melody, or how about this? And then and like Alex would be like, hey, give me like 2 minutes, and then he would go off, and then he would like pop over this like demo to us. So like even just like the fact that like we were just so committed, like we had to make this choice. Like, yes, life was happening. Yes, we're married, we have kids, and like all these things are going on. But we made this commitment to this project like right away, and it was just like every day, man. We're just gonna like see how much of a song we can have, like by the end of the day. By the end of today, I think like that was like even the text was like, oh, by the end of the day we should have like 2 more songs done. Or by the end of the day, we should have like another song done. Like, oh yeah, this chorus is done. By the end of the day, we're gonna have like 3 choruses done, right, Alex? What
I knew that by we began to talk about how by Christmas wouldn't it be cool to have 5, and then that sort of gradually turned to wouldn't it be cool to have 6, and then it said, well, why don't we just have the whole fucking thing done by 2020? Which turned out to like this was obviously not our thinking, but it turned out to be really wise, not wise, but lucky, given. We gave ourselves, we wrote our quarantine project before there was a quarantine.
Yep.
And we were able to, I don't want to call it what I've had in quarantine free time because it's very complicated when you're a primary caregiver to a child, but we had time to record. And you know, and that's where early work ethic in a project can really pay off. You have to be there for the accident, you know?
Yeah.
So how did, like, as an outsider from the music part, I have no idea how the actual songwriting process went. So Obi and Alex, were you guys in the room together? Like, so this is all like remote stuff?
No, I remember like the first tune that Vinny sent over. I remember I saw like the voice memo on my phone in terms of like, oh, here's a melody idea for like when we get to the chorus, you know. And then I remember like kind of sending that over, and then sending that over to Alex, and then Alex like took his like spin on it, you know what I mean? And that's just how it kind of went back and forth with all these tunes until we finally got to sit down together. We didn't get to sit down together until months later, like February, pretty much.
Yeah,
February,
right? Valentine's Day.
But yeah, right after Valentine's Day. That was the first time the 3 of us sat together and like went over everything, and then actually like finalized all the demos.
Damn.
And then came home and quarantine hit.
Yep. We went to the Tiki Bar though, which celebrated at the Japanese restaurant.
Oh yeah, no, we had a culinary quest. That was a good that was a good food couple days.
Dude, there's lots of good eats. The duck. Still thinking about it.
I was just kind of like hanging out, and when we decided it was going to be balanced, right? And I was just trying to figure out and like get a handle on what my personal definition of balance is, and I typed it down, and I want to throw it out, right, and see if you guys agree with it or not, you know, because my definition is where it's when you're talking about what we love and what we need to do colliding on a daily basis. So, I mean, for me, that's what it is, man. It's like I want to write music, and I want to just, you know, whether it be writing, you know, on the novel that I'm like pecking at, or whatever it is, those are the things that I love to do, those creative. But then there's my to-do list of things that I need to get done to make money, to pay the mortgage, and go on. And they're constantly colliding and wanting and needing different attentions during it on a daily basis, man. It's totally different, but that's just what it is, right?
Yeah, for me recently, and so like for the sake of like total transparency, like I'm in a season right now, like I know all of us are, but I'm in a season right now where there's a ton going on, right? So working on inevitables, owning my own business, you know what I mean? Trying to figure out how you're going to survive pandemic as a creative, how you're going to make money, how you're going to pay your mortgage, all these things, right? There's so much that's just like, man, they're like, it's like vampires just like sucking the life source out of you. But on the flip side, like one of the thoughts that I've been having, and here's something we can kind of chat about. There's this dude, Michael Hyatt, who's like a big productivity guru, and he's dope, man. He's written lots of books, but he said that in his most productive year, he took 180 days off. And I think there's something to be said for that. I think sometimes like we feel like you just have to be like so busy all the time, and you got to be productive, and you got to stay in it because that's when all the creativity is going to strike. But really, like you got to give yourself like the room to breathe and sort of take stuff in, you know. And I'm fascinated by that idea. 180 days off in a year, and that was his most productive year. What were you going to say, Jono?
Yeah, there's a master class on advertising, and it's Silverstein. I forgot the other dude's name because, I'm a good person to pay attention to things. But their whole point was someone was talking to them, and they're like, so how many hours do you write a day? And it was like the ad man from like back in the day, like asking whichever of the two it was. And he was like, and he tried to impress him. So he's like, I try and do like 10 to 14 hours of writing. And he goes, you should be writing for 2 hours a day, and you should be living until that point, because that's where it really happens. It's everything. And balance comes in too, where it's like Alex talked about, like riding his bike, where you get to a certain point and you get that idea, you go for a walk, you get that idea. It's the times when you're not thinking when the best ideas usually come to you.
You know what? I agree with that. And I was talking to Jim, right? And we were doing this thing for 6-1, I'm not going to hype it, but I will hype it. It's a 619 book, right? We're doing a podcast about it, right? And I was telling him that I would go out for a ride, whether it be the Less Than Jake lyrics or the novel or 619, where I just would drive and then I would just kind of channel, my thoughts. And best lyrics came from driving around. Like even in the middle of the night, Anthem, I remember it just like so crystal clear. I couldn't sleep. I had to just try to get some more ideas about lyrics together. And it was right before we were going to record Anthem. And I drove up and down the interstate for about 4 hours till the sun started to come up. And I got probably about a third of the lyrics and ideas for Anthem just on that sort of just constant thing and just channeling that like clear head, and there's something to be said about doing just something that you can just let everything melt away and bring in the good and let out the bad, right? But let me add my 2 cents to what Obi was saying and Jono was saying. While I think the best creativity comes when you're not trying to be creative, right? The work comes when you're supposed to be fucking working, right? There's no I'm going to kick it for 14 hours and try to fit 14 hours of work in 2 hours, right? When there's work time, it's fucking work time, right? And when it's kind of trying to be creative and try to get the good ideas, that is I'm eating a donut, having a coffee, my daughter is kind of doing her thing, and this is what we should do, right? Or this is what I should do. And I agree, the creative headspace is relaxed and not trying to force it. The work headspace though is, here's the list. Let's do it now.
Yeah, it's like what you said with your with the collision. I like the fact that you use the word collide, because I think it has to be like everything. I know for me, if everything's cool with my family, right? Like if my kids are cool and me and my wife are cool, that's almost like a layer of freedom that lets me go to the next thing. And then I go work on, my business and business stuff. And I'm like, okay, we're getting this stuff. And there's a discipline that comes with all those things where it's just like, you have to constantly check in. You have to constantly show up. I think what we don't do enough as creatives though, is we show up for the wrong things. And sometimes we show up for other people versus our own sort of our own projects, ourselves, and so that's a big piece of the puzzle as well. And I think the other side of that too, that as creatives, what we don't do is spend that time with ourselves, almost make it super personal. I'm going to give myself 20 minutes today to just sit and I'm going to think and I'm going to get back to work. I'm working. Here's 20 minutes. I'm going to sit. What ideas? What can I come up with in 20 minutes? Jot it down. Bam. Move on. Get back into workspace. Because it's true. It's a muscle, man. It really is. And we have to keep exercising it.
The thing that I want to ask, Alex. So you had mentioned, right? Okay. Before you found out your wife was pregnant, you have your rig, your studio stuff, and you're doing demos, right? And, you're blowing your own mind and writing songs, and that's great, right? Doing the 80s lead on guitar and feeling all that. But then bang, your wife's pregnant. Alex, we're going to have a baby. This is it. I want to know, after all of that, what did you do to modify your sort of like creative headspace, like, because there is a distinct thing of going, well, I went from not having a child to, and just kind of being on my own program, right? As much as my partner would sort of be okay with, right? And be happy with. And then all of a sudden you're one of the primary caregivers. So how are you balancing after that your creative space?
Well, the first thing is, I think everybody who's ever had a kid knows the first year you're done. You're not really gonna, you can try to be creative, but it's not that I certainly didn't do nothing, but it was light duty, to say the least. And then after that, I mean, it turned into a matter of time management and making sure that you maximize the time you're using, and that you don't fuck around. You don't do things just to see where they go. You do things with real intention and with real purpose. And like, I'm not like a big sobriety guru or anything, but I did happen to quit drinking around the time my son was 6 months old, and that just helped for clarity, because every bit of extra edge you can give yourself in your workflow really, really, really helps. And so, my waking hours became a lot more productive. But now, like when I'm working on our project, for instance, and also when I'm writing songs for the Pomps or even Big D, it all comes in like a very quick period of time, like an inevitable song, from me getting the text from you guys with some lyrics to there being a demo. If I have time to do the demo that day, which I, for some reason, seem to have that time pretty often, it's usually like an hour and a half, 2 hours, because if I didn't get it in that time, I didn't get it. It's just, you'd have to start again with something new. And also, I forget the exact name of the principle. I think it's called Parkinson's Law, actually, which is that work will expand to fit the allotted time. If it's not Parkinson's, I apologize, but it's something like that. It's a business principle. And I think that's kind of true. Like, if I only have an hour to work, then I'm on a song, I'm getting the song done in an hour. Mm-hmm. And so that's been very helpful. But in terms of balancing family, my son absolutely comes first, and especially with there not being very many gigs lately, luckily there hasn't been a whole lot of tension. It's been decently easy to manage.
And Alex, do you have a separate job outside of music at all?
I do. I'm actually I'm sitting in the office. It's my family owns a bookstore.
That's awesome.
And so I run that, but there's nothing to run in the COVID era right now. I mean, there's nothing doing.
Yeah. Because the reason I asked too is because that's a big part of balance too, where like you have family and business and band, and those are three different beasts, like constantly alternating, So, and this like goes to like everyone as well. Like, how do you create a schedule for yourself that you feel you can work in your creative space within that time and still hit all of the things you're supposed to hit?
That's a really good question, because the truthful answer is I'm not sure how I've been doing it, because the truth is, when you look at the amount of time that I actually have to get things done, I shouldn't be getting this stuff done. Like, it should just not be happening. But for whatever reason, it always does. And I don't know if my scheduling is very deliberate. I'm good about getting up in the morning. That helps. That gives you a good boost from the jump. And then, I have time to answer other emails while I'm here too. So if there's something on that front, I can usually do it. And then, the time after my son goes to bed, from like about 8 to 10 at night, that's when I do most of my work. And it's a pain in the ass, because if I have to sing a vocal, I actually have to like crouch on the floor of my bathroom right now. Almost all the inevitable demos were like toilet demos. And so I'm not somebody who brings like a lot of financial goals to projects, but if we can get me a third bedroom, that next record's really going to pop.
Or toilets.
Yeah, or a second bathroom. Either way.
Alex, you mentioned like principal stuff, and so there's one thing that I think that you do that you practice pretty well. I feel like you try not to touch something twice. Like if it comes across your plate and it's right there in front of you and you can touch it once, you're like, man, I'm going to get this out of the way. Bam, here we go, and move on. What's the next thing? Which I think is something that's like really helpful. John, to answer your question, for me personally, I don't like surprises. So like I like to have an idea of what my day is going to be like, and I try to keep it. I'm not a super rigid dude, but I like some spontaneity, but I don't like to be surprised. So I like to know, hey, tomorrow I've got to go to the space. I got to do this. Like here it is. I like to like have it mapped out. A little bit open. The surprises are what kills you. Is like fires and stuff like that. I like to just try to figure out how to stay away from.
And life happens.
Dude, there's always time goblins too, right?
Oh my gosh.
So someone wants to call, someone wants a thing. Earlier today, the printer went down, right? And you're just trying. I have to, do this, and that's an hour, right? And like I'll go with answer Jono's thing, and Obi knows me well enough where I'm about to say it. He's seen it firsthand. Like for me, I like to have everything in steps, and what annoys me the most is when someone tries to step over 3 unanswered questions so they can answer it a 4. Go, no, like we can't do that. Here's the steps that have to happen to get to the other part. We can't just jump over them. Okay, that's cool, but let's do these things. And I find that when I get up in the morning between 6 and 8 a.m., like I'll have some coffee, but in that like window right there is my most productive. And then my most creative is when my daughter goes to bed, and that's from about 10 to midnight, where I can just write and just kind of noodle around, and TV's on in the background, and I'm just like kind of poking at my phone and maybe have some ideas, kick off a couple emails. And if I didn't bookend my day in those 2 things, that I wouldn't get anything done, because the middle of the day is all upkeep and fires that you have to get put out and talking it out. So the middle of the day is really just shot for me, but it's bookended by 2 very solid things, and getting the work done early, and then the upkeep during the day, and then sort of the creative work at night.
The time goblins thing is crazy, man. How do we say no to the time goblins, right? Because like they're everywhere, and like you get those phone calls and you want to listen to people and you want to help them out, but like at some point, I think that they're always well intentioned, but at some point you just have to kind of be like, listen, man, like I'm not the guy. I'm just not the guy. Like I can't help. I don't know. I've listened numerous times now, and hey, we're just not, you know what I mean? I find like as I get older, like my circle is getting smaller as well as a result of that. Like there's only certain people I kind of want to like talk to and like let into like that brain space, because then when other people kind of find out about it, then it's just like, oh, hey, can I call you about this? Or, hey, can I, or like, we've all been there. Like, we've all heard those things. I remember like meeting someone for the first time and they were just kind of like, oh, like you've put out records. Like, so, can you get my band signed? You know what I mean? And it's just like, no, dude, like the hardest time getting my own band signed. Like, what are you talking about? Like, like, so
sorry.
What do we do with those guys?
Well, so my whole take was like, I feel like all of us have been doing our respective things for so long to where we know exactly the amount of time each person will cost us. You know what I mean? And not in like a devoid of human emotion way, but like oh, Jerry is calling me. Like, this dude talks a lot. This is a 45-minute call. Hey, dude, I can't really take it right now. You know what I mean? So like, for example, like Obi and I will get on a phone call, but we just smash through like, let's go super project management mode. But today was one of those things where like I was working on a thing and you're like, you want to work on a thing? And I'm like, I'm going to bust it out super fast, streamline it, send it to you. Because I actually, for once, have to do work. Because in my situation, I'm currently fun employed, as they say. So I have a little bit more time to pick up other things. But speaking of that, we like time limits here at Concentric Circles. And Obi, we have a wonderful game that we're going to play.
Oh man! So Alex is. I'm going to just shout Alex out for a hot second. So Alex played in Westbound Train. It was like not the first iteration of Westbound, was it? Or,
I think you'd call it like 1.5.
it was like Westbound 1.5, which Alex is now again playing in Westbound Train.
Like 7.5.
That whatever welcome to Ska Bands 101. And so in the beginning, Alex and I we just had different approaches to writing songs. I didn't understand where like Alex was kind of coming from, because I had this like really stubborn view of like what I wanted to do with the band at the time. And so long story short, like it didn't work out. Right. And so then we had to kind of have that conversation of like, this isn't going to work out, man. And, we lived in the small town of Boston, and we didn't like each other for a period of time, but that's okay. And then it was really a misunderstanding, right? All that to say that now Alex is one of my favorite songwriters. I love working on projects with Alex. I love the Pomps. I love a lot of the stuff that he does. And it's really because I just needed to be introduced to like Elvis Costello, right? That's really what we can kind of chalk this up to.
I mean, I just think, what were we, like 20 years old, 21 years old, something like that. And
now that you're 25,
I was definitely obsessed with like making sure that I liked cool music, and then I channeled cool music. And like, even though it turns out, I think most of what the other Westbound guys were listening to was pretty cool. It was a lot of the sort of that neo soul stuff, but it didn't connect with me the same way that like, I don't know, like Ted Leo or, like New Order or something did it.
Absolutely.
You're discovering that stuff and you're nostalgic for a time you didn't even live in. Like,
yeah, of course. Like Jamaican music.
But it's like it's just not how I feel anymore.
Yeah, no, but it's cool. So anyway, now, which leads to our segment, because what we're going to do, Alex, is we're going to give you 60 seconds to think of a song. At least try to give us a verse and a chorus, right? On some pretty ridiculous topics. And so the first topic that we've got for you today, and then we're going to give you, Jono, do you want to do the 60 seconds timer, homie?
Of course I do.
Because you're the official.
By the way, this is an impossible task. Like this
is not.
This is when I said that expands to fit the allotted time. That's assuming reasonable. This is This is Saw. This is Saw for songwriting.
You in a bathroom with a toilet.
That's right. I got legless Carrie Elways over here.
There it is. All right, so we're going to go 60 seconds for you to give us a verse and a chorus on the Boston Tea Party.
The actual Boston Tea Party?
The actual Boston Tea Party, you history buff. Come on.
Okay.
All right. And it's going to start in 5.
All right, well, actually, I got something, so I'm going to just go through my process with you. So, the Boston Tea Party, the ship happened back to where the Children's Museum is, and there's a big milk bottle there. So, hold on, let's think about something with the word hood. Could, I don't know.
I love this.
It's, red coats. I don't know if this one's going to happen, but let's see. Where's our timer at?
We're at 35 seconds.
All right. We're just going to work through this together. I think a verse and a chorus is untenable.
You got to play it like in like a metal style.
Red coats, imagine if you could. The site of the Boston Tea Party is a milk bottle from Hood. I don't know, something like that. Like I feel like if you told me to come back tomorrow with it, it would be all done.
No, but it was brilliant just seeing how you started putting things together.
Well, but that's the cover of the fact that I don't really remember the entire story of the Boston Tea Party, and that it's just where they did it as the Children's Museum now. Give me something else.
I'll say you can do the drunk history version of these things if you want to.
Yeah, there you go. The drunk history version of the Boston Tea Party.
Or the sober version.
All right.
All right. So, but no, it was that was fascinating in and of itself. All right. Ready? Next topic. Any genre you want. Vegan tacos.
Oh, okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, and now. The Alex Songwriting Studio.
Vegan tacos.
And if you say a single mean thing.
Yeah.
my mostly vegan wrath will.
I will cry.
That's it. I'll be really upset.
What's the timer?
You got 35 seconds.
He's keeping his ideas to himself this time.
Yeah,
he's not showing off. He's not showing the process.
I'm nervous and excited.
It's funny.
I mean, you can't expect the melody to be good.
I mean, but no, it's just amazing how you start connecting dots. Like words come, phrases come, ideas, and you start connecting idea to words to rhyme schemes.
And this is like the smash hit of the Inevitables record, so I can't wait. This is the bonus, the B-sides. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, so tortillas made of corn. Get hungry, I get forlorn. I wanna be with you, but you eat beef and I eat tofu. Vegan tacos, they make me smug. They make me smug. Vegan tacos, they make me smug. They make me smug. Obviously, there's like a rhyme that you need for smug, like, but I don't want to use hug. You could like the fact that they're like a drug would be the next step.
You could also do like a hip hop.
Then the middle 8, like if there was a bridge, I think where we would go is like me losing my way and like just eating chicken.
There you go.
Just give it up on the just be like, I'm hungry. You're out of the tofu. Let's eat it.
For fun, does anybody else want to throw a topic out? I'm just saying, anything pop into anybody's head?
All right, can I come up with one?
Yeah.
I'm looking around my room to think of something. Pogs.
What?
Pogs. P-O-G.
Oh, the 90s sensation?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
5, 4, 3, 2, and now. I think that was from Making the Video or something. You guys remember that show? And now, the world premiere of
Pogs, the greatest song ever written. So
I like that I said I was going to look around the room, and then I just thought of Pogs, which I don't have in my room at all, by the way.
So, side note, after this tune, though, we should kind of dissect this process, because there's a process in there, and it's kind of like phenomenal. Because, and I know Vinny can attest to it, it's just, it happens so fast for Alex that even for me, like sometimes I just feel really bad about myself. That's how, like the song just comes out so damn fast.
You know what? It was great when we were in Orlando and we were sort of like woodshedding the last bit of songs and kind of figuring it out. It was great to be able to sit down and go, no, but it should be this, and kind of talk about it, and then it just literally just make it happen, man. Just in that round circle of fix and creative, it was awesome, man. To like be able to be kind of digesting the song but fixing it at the same time that you're sort of doing it.
So good. It was so much fun.
Are we ready?
Go to the tiki bar after.
All right. Should we do this in my worst Elvis Costello impression? Let's get the key. The 90s sensation that swept the nation. They make siblings fight. They'll choke your dog. They're Pogs. Oh, gee. What exactly are they? Beats me, they're Pogs.
There it is.
Your dog got one of them. They choke on it, right? Like that would be. They're discs, right? They're like, yeah. My brother played with them. I was too cool.
That's awesome.
Listening to New Order.
Let's do more.
Probably was like Warrant.
Let's
like Pogs are like Warrant.
That's a whole other topic.
Hey, Obi, you want to do one more, Alex? Or do you have time to do
Yeah, let's turn my scrap paper over here. All right.
Let's see. Who wants to? Does anyone want to have a shot? Me?
It's all you.
The Jersey Devil.
Oh.
Not the hockey team either, by the way. But the Jersey Devil.
Well, I'm still going to use hockey.
right.
Or you can mention hockey too. I'm cool with that.
Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2.
That was 60 seconds. Wow.
No, that just started. Well, that just started.
Oh, okay.
Not the end of it.
Yes.
Yeah. I start while people explain it, and then I'm like, "I'll be over, dude."
You gotta go.
You know what? The thing that I want to ask Alex when he's done is how big is his collection of music? Because there was a point in time when we were name checking certain things for songs, going, it should be more in this vibe. It should be more. And dude, sort of came in on some of those influences pretty spot on. So he has to be, I know he's well read because his family owns a bookstore, but he has to be well listened to as well. I'm not trying to distract him from the task at hand of the Jersey Devil.
No, I'll explain that for him. Everything to him is actually a Stone Roses ripoff. So he just goes back to Stone Roses, and so that's how he just makes it all work. Like that's how it goes. Oh,
here we go.
Hit us.
Okay, you gotta let me finish my line.
No, absolutely not.
There are rules, damn it.
All right. Well, there's more that I wanted to say about New Jersey, but you're going to get hockey. Let's see. Reggae?
Sure.
Always reggae.
I'm a Bruins fan. So was my granddad. I've seen them be good, usually bad. The team that caused me the most trouble was the godforsaken NJ Devils. It would go like you'd have backup singers going like NJ Devils, and then it would be, and then like of course like there would be stuff about it would have more exposition. There would be stuff about the Turnpike. There would be stuff about Gardens. It would just be like a Saves the Day record.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't deliver the chorus quite yet on that, but I'm gonna keep this lyric sheet.
Yeah, I was hoping for a jug handle reference, but
Oh yeah, I love and pumping your own gas, or not being able to pump your own gas,
or pork roll.
You see, I was like one thing that is a good thing to do, to be serious, is if you can write down free association stuff for your topic, that'll get you pretty far. And that's for New Jersey. Those are touchstones.
Hell yeah.
So Vinny asked a good question, and then I kind of want to talk process a little bit. So Vinny asked about like how deep and how big is like your music collection, like so. Because it's true when we were working on Inevitables, like we referenced everything from like, No Use for a Name to like,
My Morning Jacket.
Yeah, to My Morning Jacket. Yeah, there's so many things like.
Well, what's funny is like amongst my friends who would consider themselves sort of music fans, I lag behind them a lot. Like I don't know too much of the newer stuff that's going on in sort of the indie, I guess, like pitchfork scene. You'd call, for lack of, I know it's not a scene, it's just a magazine, but I scan it pretty often, and I don't know most of the bands, but I took playing guitar pretty seriously when I was younger, so I listened to a lot of guitar rock bands, and I think the favorite one's probably the Smiths because Johnny Marr's guitar playing, and then that leads to Stone Roses, and also I like Guns N' Roses a lot. Like there's a little in a couple of the Inevitable songs I try to really peel it back, but there's just a little bit of You Could Be Mine hanging out, and it's like it's always going to be there no matter how hard I try. I don't know a lot of the sort of jazz canon, at least on my fingers, and so it's pretty. I don't say it's down the middle because some of that stuff could be pretty subversive, but it's like there's a lot of guitar rock in my veins.
Do you like? So when I look at songs and I have like a deadline or whatever for doing like drumming stuff, do you kind of look at songs as challenges in a way where you're like, how can I connect these dots in a different way, or does it just naturally happen for you? Like, how do you approach new songs?
I start dabbling, and then what almost always happens is like I just gravitate to like one line, and I try to build around that. And does not necessarily become the chorus. It's just I try to get my hook into anything that could possibly be passable, that could possibly make it to the next step. Because it really doesn't matter who you are. Like well, we just saw it in action right there. Like one line from each of those songs could probably turn into something better, something real. And so if you take that process and you have, not infinite, but like we had 60 seconds then, and if instead you had 4 minutes, you can do a lot in 4 minutes in terms of like getting the seed. And I mean, but honestly, the key to my songwriting, like the secret to my ability to turn these things around fast is like I'm really good at the cut and paste function in Pro Tools and Logic. At like familiarizing yourself with computer music is the only way to make time and get things done fast.
So if you had to sort of like just give us like from a process perspective, beginning, like middle and end. So you said you like to start with just babbling. You try to find like that one line, try to take to the next place. Like to be in the middle of something, where do you like to end up there? And then when do you know that you're done?
I think I naturally, like if you just had a verse, you wouldn't start celebrating. You're just like, I have a verse. So if I get a chorus that I know is a chorus, it's going to move pretty fast. Like, because, people can accuse it of being formulaic, but I like pop and I like popular songs a lot. So I'm good for a song having at least 3 choruses, sometimes a double at the end. And I don't feel particularly ashamed of that. So you've got, I don't know, 40% of your song there already. And then you add a couple verses and maybe a weird section. And you can also put those choruses in a weird order. It doesn't have to be traditional. So if I get there, like I know that it's going to get done. Generally, I don't leave a whole lot on the cutting room floor, as we talked about earlier. When you have a child, you kind of got to turn everything into gold. There's a couple of pop songs that are a little more through composed that pull that off, but that's because those songs are super wordy.
It's funny. It's for me. It's like if I think I write a chorus, what I'll end up doing is I think I'll have a chorus, but it's really a bridge. Mm-hmm. But if I write the bridge first, like going, oh yeah, this is the bridge, it's really a chorus. It's like the same thing that just happens to me like every.
Well, it's not to suck up to one of our hosts, but one of the things that was a big songwriting moment for me, and it wasn't that long ago, is I noticed that a lot of Less Than Jake songs had kind of like 2 sections you could call a chorus, like 2 distinct hooks. And it's not like, I wasn't like, I've never heard of that, but it was like to see a band closer to what I'm in the genres I'm working and be able to do that, I thought was like, it gave me something to think about. How you don't have to save your choruses across separate songs. You can keep 2 of them.
Absolutely, man. It's funny because there's points that I think that in the Less Than Jake world, sometimes we'd be going, okay, here's this, sort of super catchy thing, and that could be a chorus, right? But it's just this pre-chorus pop, or we'd have 2 choruses, and that last part would just be this another thing, and just big ending, and we call it, this sort of like a train wreck sort of at the end where we're throwing everything in, and it could take you to another spot, man. And you know what? That's the beautiful thing about songwriting, and we'll end it there and kind of move on to some plugs and wrap up. But dude, songwriting, if you could really take it and kind of dissect it and not get married to it, going, well, this works here better, and this could work here as the chorus. Dude, if you turn it on its head sometimes and be willing to turn it on its head sometimes, that's when the real winners of songwriting come out, man.
Yeah. Well, and the last thing I'll add to that is I think one thing that those songs convey, the ones that I'm sort of referencing offhand, they really convey a sense of momentum. And that's the hardest thing to get in a song. And there's a couple of songs where I've gotten that. And I think the Inevitable songs, a lot of them really do have momentum. Like you feel that they're delivering, especially because it's going to have a real narrative structure, with the comic book and all these things. So you feel that they're taking you somewhere. And I'm not sure that's something I paid attention to until very recently, and it seems to be working out. So I'm happy about it.
one thing, because you mentioned it, but Last of the Bell Ringers,
Yeah.
right? The Inevitable song, right? That's an Inevitable song track called Last of the Bell Ringers. And it's such a weirdly crafted song, but man, you're talking about momentum. By the end, you have that tension, and I'm not going to ruin it, but there's this tension, and it's just this fucking release. And man, when I heard it in its completion, I went, man, this is beautiful. This is like surprise and catchy and vibey. And man, I was just thinking to myself, like, good on everybody involved.
Yeah, and I know we got to wrap up, but I think that's going to be one of the songs that really delivers this whole project as something that plays with the bounds of the formula, and that's an exciting, because I think sometimes people try to be weird for the sake of being weird, and a lot of good music has come that way. But if you can just poke around the edges of your genre and figure out where discomfort helps, I think that's how you're going to make like a great body of work, a great like freestanding record, a whole record.
Agreed. I think the fact that like this Inevitables project, especially on the music side, really encompasses balance. The way that like we've kind of been talking about it, like there's parts of songs and there's parts of the story and just how everything kind of comes around, and like you're going to get bits and pieces of Jono, you're going to get Vinny's lyrics, you're going to get Stern pieces, OB pieces, and it really just like it's everybody's kind of like thing that like kind of comes together in a way, and it's actually really well balanced. There's not too much of that, there's not too much of this, you know what I mean? And so it's really beautiful, man. It's one of my favorite things that I've been a part of, that I've ever done, so I'm stoked.
Yeah, I'm hoping that like several commas and decimal points worth of people feel the same way.
And Alex, do you have anything that you're working on now that you want to plug?
Well, there's obviously the Inevitables is first and foremost, because that's what I've been doing the most. But secondarily to that, Big D and the Kids Table is probably about halfway through the tracking of it. We might have passed sort of the halfway point, and that's going to come out next year. I think we have a label all set. I don't think it's my story to tell. But it's really good. It was a really, really fun and easy record to make. I think it's like both what the band and the fans need. Great horn sections really stepped up. We've been having like Zoom practices, and I'm really proud of it. And I can't wait for that to come out. And, with that, we'll probably, make a video and play some shows. So I'm excited about that. Beyond those two projects, I've poken around the idea of writing some more of my own music pretty soon. I think I want to come up for air and maybe just like ride my bike for a month or something before I do that. But yeah, I mean, with those two records alone, I mean that's like it feels like a life well lived.
True.
Well, awesome, man. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Yeah, dude.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
It's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Right on, man.
Man, that was insane watching Alex work that fast. And I think you guys are onto something for a brand new show called Time Goblins. Toilet demos, where it's just you give a songwriter 60 seconds and let them just fucking go to town and try to come up with a verse and a chorus. I say we do a whole season of that.
I feel like that's the old like songwriting method though, where it's like all the guys in like the workshops, like, oh, I gotta write these lyrics down. People are like, come on, go.
Yeah.
Like, because
yeah,
like I forgot in like Motown shit was like that too, where it was straight up like write as many songs as you can, and there's people just cranking and cranking and cranking, and like the quality of the stuff is so wild because you're like, oh man, like. There's the Alexes of the world that like their brains function that way. They just get music in a way that most people don't. So they could like streamline that, but it's not like homework to them, which I think is so rad.
No, yeah, it's natural. It's all natural, and it's natural talent, and it was pretty amazing to watch unfold. But I got a question for Vinny real quick is like you mentioned your work day, how it starts at around 6 a.m. and ends around midnight. So you're clocking in a good 6 hours of sleep. How do you survive on 6 hours of sleep? Because I'm an 8 hour a day guy.
you know what? It's a natural clock now, man. It's that, maybe there's a 10 or 15-minute difference, right? Or if the dog needs to go out and starts to shift around a little bit, like maybe it'll be a little bit earlier. Or if the dog sleeps a little bit later, then I'll sleep a little bit later. But 6 hours is where I'm at, man. And sadly, I am a recovering insomniac. So 6 hours is a lot. During my entire 20s to my early 30s, I maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half, maybe. And that's when, but I got a lot of work done, and a lot of cool stuff that I can look back on and go, yeah. I mean, mind you, I was a madman during those times, right?
You were not. Yeah.
Yeah, but with that said, man, I clock in some serious time during the day, and I've, especially since we have the inevitables. There's paper and plastic. There's family life. There's a ton of other things, and I'm doing a lot of press now for either for the book and leading up to inevitables thing, and it's just a lot of talking, and it's a lot of like making lists, and it's trying again, man. We're going to go back to that and wrap it, right? It's balancing all the things that I think are important versus the things that I really, really, really have to do to survive as a human, to be happy as a human, right? Like, and sometimes it's, I look at it, Pac-Man, right? It's, you have Pac-Man eating all of, these power pellets. And that's sort of, I look at it sometimes in that balanced way. There's things that are constantly just sort of getting swallowed as you're going along, right? And sometimes that's okay. But the minute that you have too much, you're that full, or that Pac-Man gets the ghost or whatever, it crumbles. Or you hit that, to stick with the Pac-Man thing, you hit the power-up pellet, and then you're fast as hell. And sometimes that's a success. You hit a successful moment, man, and you get off and you're energized. You're like, this is beautiful, man. And dude, that's my life of trying to maintain being very creative, but fast-paced creative, right? And then doing deep dives, as well as all the stuff that you have to do, talk about Roblox with my daughter, talk about, walk the dog, and hear about design that I have to do. I do a lot of like graphic design work, and it's just, that's maddening. That's real deal stuff,
Yeah.
I feel like one thing that is bizarre for me, and I imagine all of us, especially now, can relate to it. Like when you are in a touring band, a lot of your day is the doing that you're doing is sitting for 8 hours until you get somewhere. So like waiting is the activity, So when I stopped touring as much, my brain was trying to like recalibrate and like, how do I fill that time? So if I was on the road, I would be like reading, watching stuff, doing whatever, and trying to come up with other stuff to fill that time. So then in the last however long, like the less I've been touring, the more I've been changing my daily balance. So it's like, how do I fill my day with projects I want to do, things that can get me money, and still have time for like family stuff. But the trickiest one for me lately is like having the motivation to understand like, it's okay to relax and like watch a TV show and like zone out, or even like use that as research to where like I watch all of Mad Men, and I was like, this has given me the most ideas and inspiration in the last few years, But then the problem is like, sometimes people get stuck doing that. And that's another part of balance, where if you're just doing the binging and not any of the purging of creativity, you're just enjoying a thing like everyone else.
The work never stops, man. You got to put in the work, You always got to pay attention to the work. That's what it comes down to.
I think that's a pretty good place to wrap up, but also, and to mention that Jono's Midwestern accent really came through on the word balance. So anybody thing to plug before we say bye-byes?
Not this week, man. Not this week. Just
Inevitable.
Just inevitables, We got inevitables coming up in a couple weeks.
We lost them. So
So
I guess what we'll do is what Obi was about to say was maybe you should go to concentriccircles.cc to find out all the information about the podcast. There'll be some Inevitables updates all over social media, and just keep an eye out for that.
Awesome, man. Thanks, guys.
All right. Take care.
Inevitables.